this is our explanation on what was done for the March holiday assignment. We started off by analysing the question to further understand the question criteria. The question is, which of the following is an accurate depiction of the disposition of the two characters in this poem? We unpack the keywords in the question, which are accurate depiction, disposition. Next, we analyse the poem by unpacking its words and elaborating on its meaning. For example, far from grown. The characters are far from becoming a grown-up. This can be in terms of maturity or age. Then, we interpreted the situation, characters, and the characters' emotions and attitudes. We interpreted that the characters constitutes of two young people, one male and one female. For the situation, we interpreted that they are focused on their surroundings and are oblivious to the world beyond. They are focused on the present and are happy with the present situation, and that they have many dreams which is unexpected for their age or maturity. And the emotions we interpreted are that they are happy, captivated, and resolute. For the attitudes, we believe that they were hopeful and driven as they have many dreams. They were also innocent as they lack understanding of the world. After that, we decided to set the criteria to compare the accuracy of the options. The criteria are the characters in the option, the situation in the poem, the attitude of the characters, and the emotions of the characters. We then analysed the options and unpacked each option to identify whether or not they met the criteria. From the table above, we are able to eliminate option E as it does not specifically state the attitude of the two characters in the poem. The option states that they are suffering from dementia and they think that they are young once again and are standing at the place where they first met. This option makes us unable to make any inferences from the vague description of the two characters, as we cannot interpret what emotion and attitude they associate with their childhood. We are also able to eliminate option F, as they have four people in the scenario, and this poem only has two characters. Lastly, we made a checklist to check if each option has components that are consistent with our interpretation of the poem. Each criterion has to be fulfilled in order to fully fulfill the question requirements. When the option fulfilled the criteria, we checked it with a yes and explained why it did, as seen as part B of the table. When the option did not fulfill the criteria, we checked it with a no and explained why it didn't, as seen in part C of the table. Lastly, we arranged the options that fulfill the requirements of the questions in increasing order. Our final order is E, F, C, A, D, and B.
This is the tutor's feedback summarized. For step 1 of our project, they said they had comments like the parenthesis is not additional information, it is an elaboration as the poem still makes sense when read without it. And they also said that the parenthesis does not imply that characters are appreciating their surroundings. They also said that little could mean very small people instead of young people. And the quotes, all realms of where it went beyond and far from a grown world of known, symbolize that the characters are solely focused on each other. And lastly, they said two little M's and over them this aflame with dreams. The line does not imply that the characters have dreams at all. Next, to step 2, where we do an interpretation of the poem, or the situation in the poem. They basically said that they had one comment in this section where they said carried away cannot be considered as an attitude of the characters. Next, to the analysis of options, they had one positive comment here where they said that our criteria chosen to evaluate accuracy is valid. And as for the other comments, firstly they said option C. In option C, they feel that teenagers are similar to grown-ups in maturity. Option D, they feel that the line over them aflame with dreams does not show that the men have dreams overseas. It does not necessarily show this, and there's no evidence to back that up. For option E, we did not include a attitude and emotion in our table, and they feel that there has to be one, And for option F, since the poem would be from the elderly couple's viewpoints, they feel that the couple would feel hopeful that their grandchildren live carefree lives.
Now, moving on to our responses to the tutor's feedback. We have categorized the feedback into two separate groups. The first one being the comments regarding the interpretation of the poem. The first comment we have received under this category is that the parenthesis in the poem does not contain additional information. Instead, it contains elaboration to the poem. Our response is that regardless of whether it was additional information or elaboration, we did not omit the information or we did not analyze it using a different method. This was because we managed to observe that the content within the parentheses serves the purpose of describing the poem. Hence, the labeling of the information within the parentheses is insignificant, as the way that we would have analyzed it will remain the same. Next, the poem without parentheses does not implicitly state that the characters are appreciating their surrounding. Our response is that we do agree that it did not explicitly state that the characters are appreciating their surrounding. However, we inferred that the main point or purpose of the first paragraph based on the descriptive words. For example, he and she in the parentheses are used to describe the two characters. Hence, the paragraph wants to emphasize that the two characters are one male and one female. Similarly, the tree that the two characters were standing under is described as wonderful. Hence, we concluded that another point of emphasis is the surrounding of the two characters. From this, we inferred that the characters are appreciating their surroundings as they describe the tree as wonderful. The next comment is that little could mean small in size instead of young people. We did consider the fact that little could mean people who are small in size. However, our group came to the conclusion that since all the options do not give any indication about the physical appearance of the characters, it would be difficult to determine which options are accurate. Furthermore, all the options mention the age of the characters in them. Hence, age would be a better indication as to whether the character in the option is consistent with the one in the poem. Lastly, the tutors also commented that the phrases, all realms of where and when beyond, and far from a grown-full world of known, symbolizes that the characters are solely focused on each other. The tutor's exact comment was that the line actually suggests that the two characters' world only consists of each other. However, we do not agree with this line, as far from a grown-full world of known is not related to what the two characters perceive their world to be like. It does not mention that they are focused on each other. Instead, the main point of this line is that they are young and innocent as they are far from being a grown-up. The phrase, all realms of where and when beyond, also shows that they are in the present, and however, being in the present and for being focused on their present state does not necessarily mean that they are focused on each other. Now moving on to the comments directed to the analysis of the poem and the grading of the options. The first comment we received is that for option E in the table, there has to be an attitude and an emotion. Our response is that we were unable to make any inferences from the vague description of the two characters, as we cannot interpret what emotion they associate with their childhood and what attitude they would have when they were a child.
One of the comments we got was that the phrase incredible does not necessarily relate to them having many dreams and goals. We thought that the words incredible are relevant to the characters having dreams as they are used to describe the dreams that they have. The phrase incredible could have many meanings, such as it is impressive that the two characters have so many dreams, or that the two characters are passionate about their dreams. Both interpretations are possible, as it would be impressive and incredible if a young child were to have any dreams, or if they were passionate about them. Another comment that we got was that there was no comparison between option F and E. We thought that by eliminating both option E and F, it does not in any way imply that they would have the same accuracy mark. It simply means that these two options are not the most accurate and are eliminated from the list of possible answers. Hence, there isn't a need for any comparison. However, they are still accurate to a certain extent, and to determine that, we decided to use the checklist that we have created. The next comment that we got is that we need to consider more perspectives. If we were to consider more perspectives, there would be multiple answers that would be considered accurate. There should only be one accurate and one correct interpretation of the poem, and accuracy of the option should be relative to the answer. The tutors also feel that for option C, teenagers are similar to grown-ups in maturity. However, we thought that this is invalid for the tutors to criticize our interpretation simply by saying that they think teenagers are similar to grown-ups in maturity. There isn't any reference to evidence or any inferences made to show that the teenagers in option C have the maturity of grown-ups. We feel strongly that teenagers can be considered little as they are still here quite young compared to adults. The tutors thought that for option D, over them aflame with dreams, does not show that the men have dreams overseas, and smiling in the poem cannot be linked to optimism. However, we thought that the poem was vague in that it does not specify what the dreams the two characters had, and why it would be considered incredible. However, simply eliminating or faulting an option just because